Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of Film Study. This is Ken McCusick. We've got a special guest today, Jeremy Lucien, safety for the Baltimore Ravens, joining us to talk about the UDFA process that he went through. Tell us some insights about that. He's had a fine preseason already in 2 games, and we'll hit on that, I'm sure, a little bit. And Jeremy, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, appreciate you coming on. You're come from athletic family, as I understand it. Your dad, a point guard at UMBC. Tell us about any other family members.
Yeah. So as you just said, my dad, he graduated from UMBC back in '97, and his journey was kind of similar to mine. Like just coming up from the bottom. He was a walk-on his first few years, and then he eventually became co-captain by his final year, which is really cool. And then I made my debut here for the Ravens a few weeks ago. So it's kind of cool that like we both started to make our name for ourselves in the same area. And then in terms of other athletic family members, so the whole reason I actually started playing football in the first place is because I have an older cousin. His name is Donovan. When I was really little, we used to go over to New York and watch him play high school football every week. And I just remember it was maybe right before I turned 7. I remember telling my parents, like, hey, I want to be like Donovan. Like, can I play football just like him? So pretty soon after that, they ended up signing me up for the local team back where I lived. And the rest is pretty much history from there.
All right. Outstanding. Now, I don't know how highly you recruited were for college ball, but you started your career at UConn and then transferred to Vandy. I guess you must have played with Travis Jones for at least a couple of years at UConn, right?
I did, yes. We came in together. He was in my class.
All right, outstanding. And the move to Vandy and the SEC, obviously a big one. Talk about that a little bit and how that occurred.
Yeah, so started off at UConn. So I played 2018, 2019. We were one of the few teams that we opted out of the season for the COVID year in 2020, which was kind of weird. That was the first season since I started playing, since youth football, that I hadn't played, competitively against anybody in the fall. So it was kind of weird just being a spectator, but it was good in the sense that, it gave everybody a time to just heal up, recover from any injuries, and just get bigger, faster, and stronger. And I definitely saw the benefits of that going into my final year at UConn in 2021. I had the most productive year of my career so far. But that being said, things really weren't going the way I had hoped. There were way more downs than ups while I was at UConn. So I figured, it was time for a change of scenery. I knew I only had one more season left to play. And with the league aspirations I had, I knew that I was going to need to go somewhere where I could just have a better opportunity to play against better talent that would better prepare me for, the next level. And I knew scouts would want to see that as well. So after a lot of, discussion with my family, we decided that it was best for me to go into the portal and kind of look for a new home. So that's why I was really fortunate to end up at Vanderbilt. As soon as I went into the portal, they were one of the first teams that ended up reaching out. And I think that was large in part because we actually played Vanderbilt in 2021 while I was at UConn. And that was one of my best games of my season that year. So, they got an up close view of, what kind of a player I am. So I think that definitely helped me out a lot in ending up at Vanderbilt.
That's very cool. And so really challenging yourself with an SEC resume then at that point. Coming into the draft, talk about your expectations there. Did you have any thought that you might get drafted?
I thought that there was like a sliver of a chance. I mean, I'm not delusional. So I know I played a pretty good season, but at the end of the day, if you look at my career as a whole, I definitely didn't feel like I turned enough heads while I was at UConn coming into Vanderbilt to really be on any, watch lists or anything like that. And there was like coming into the SEC, I knew I was going to be competing against other DBs who had been in the SEC for a lot longer, like, doing what they had been doing for a couple of years. So I really would have, I knew if I wanted to get drafted, I was really going to need another year. I figured at best, it was probably going to be like a 6th or 7th round thing, but I knew that most likely it was going to be an undrafted free agent route that I was going to take, which was a win. The goal is just to get your foot in the door somehow. So I'm glad that, it ended up working out.
I want you to talk a little bit about the UDFA process. First of all, I'd love to hear if you were actually involved on the phone. And I know a little bit about it from the Ravens' perspective, as they have about 20 different people, scouts and coaches and whatnot, all calling up players they want to get on the well, it's true of the practice squad, but it's also true right at the end of the draft that they're trying to call up players and see who they can get to come to camp. Talk a little bit about that process.
Yeah, so it's funny. Watching the draft this year in general just felt it felt a lot different. Like years past, I wasn't in whatever draft class for that year, so I was just kind of watching it as a fan. But like now, being part of this process, it just felt really cool. But I knew, day one, day two, my phone wasn't going to be ringing. So I didn't really have any expectations for those first 2 days. But then day three, like it was a pretty long day for me. I had a couple people over at the house. We all knew that it was going to be like, an undrafted free agent type thing. So it's a matter of just waiting for the draft to end, seeing who's going to be the first person to call as soon as the draft is over. So I remember talking with my agent at some point during the day. I think it was maybe halfway through the 6th round. And he was saying, whoever the first team is to call, like, I think we should go with them. Like that'd probably be the best decision to make. And at first I was like, I don't really know if I want to do that. Cause what if another team comes along afterwards, might be a better fit. Like, do I want to just jump the gun with the first team? But then I thought about it more and I was like, you know what? I'm going to trust the process, like, trust in God. Whatever team that calls first is going to be the right team for me. And literally 30 seconds after the draft ended, I ended up getting a call. It said Chris Hewitt on the phone, which is the cornerbacks coach here. Mm-hmm. So I picked up right away, and then he asked me how I was doing. Said I was doing well, and the next thing he said was, "Would you like to come be a Raven?" I said, "Absolutely."
Outstanding.
And then as soon as I said that, everybody in the room started going crazy. Was getting hugs from everybody. So yeah, that's how it happened. They called me right away. So I was so happy.
That's terrific to hear the Ravens are on it so bad. I mean, you may know this or you may not, but the Ravens have an amazing history of finding UDFA corners and in particular safeties who provide real value. The Ravens have always been a kind of a dime team. They're a committed nickel now, but they've been a dime team for most of their existence. And they found all of this remarkable talent. It's all 6th round or later, a lot of UDFAs. Including Keaton Mitchell's dad. He was a UDFA, Anthony Mitchell, who made. Yep. Mm-hmm. You're probably aware he made. It's all over the castle in terms of the paintings and pictures of the play he made. That was probably the biggest play of the 2000 season.
I remember. Yeah, Keaton was one of the first people that I met during the rookie minicamp weekend, and he was telling us that his dad played here.
Outstanding. So let's talk about some of the basics. Now, we just had some interesting things happening. You're living in an apartment building somewhere out in Owings Mills, I assume, which doesn't have great internet. So just to explain some of the noise in the background.
I'm actually still in the hotel.
Still in the hotel, okay. But you went down to the lobby Starbucks.
Yes. So pretty much the way it works is that So we were, for the first week and a half of camp, the whole team is required to stay in here in the hotel. And there's curfew, bed checks, all of that. After about a week and a half, they let the vets move out and go off to if they have apartments or houses or whatever, they were able to leave a little bit early. After the Eagles game, rookies were able to move out of the hotel if they wanted to. But the thing with me is, at the end of the day, I wasn't an undrafted free agent. I don't have a lot of money at my disposal right now. So an apartment's not really in the cards yet. So I was like, let me just continue to milk this hotel thing as long as they're willing to pay for it. I can, save a little bit of money, and then I'm not going to start looking for an apartment until, probably sometime next week. So, keep a little bit extra money in my pocket. But yes, I'm still in the hotel right now. That's why the Wi-Fi is kind of.
Do you get a per diem?
I don't have my own service provider.
Okay, I'm sorry I cut you off there a little bit, but do you have a per diem that you get for food?
We don't. I mean, so we get paid weekly. So I guess kind of it would be working for that. But then they have all the meals and stuff that we need at the facility. So we really don't need I really don't need to buy my own food.
So you go in for breakfast, take care of your lifting or whatever, classroom, lunch, and then even get your dinner there as well?
Yep.
Wow. Sweet deal. But it's interesting that people don't realize that, being on the practice squad or just starting out in the NFL is kind of it's a middle class thing. You don't have you still don't have a lot of money, like you're saying. You're not necessarily, you don't want to put 3 months worth of rent down in an apartment necessarily, right?
So that's the next thing. When I do get an apartment, I'm gonna see if I can get something on like a month by month basis, because at the end of the day, I'm confident in my abilities, but in this game, anything could happen. Like, you could wake up one morning and then they're telling me that they're shipping you off to Seattle. So what I don't want to do is get a really long-term lease too soon and then end up like locked into something that like I won't even be living there. So I'm gonna just take it day by day with that. Same reason why like I would prefer not to have a roommate if I can, because maybe either I end up going somewhere else or they end up going somewhere else, and then now there's going to be issues with paying for the lease with one person who's not living there anymore. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to think about.
You have a remarkable amount of foresight with regard to this. I'll just say, for a pro football player, that's you're really thinking through the what ifs. I know that a couple of the Ravens lived in a trailer together. It was a really nice trailer. Bradley Bozeman and Zach Sealer a few years ago, and they've both gone on to do very well in the NFL. But that was, I thought, an interesting thing that they decided to live together and live in a trailer at that. Let's talk a little bit about adjustments from college to pro, and obviously it's a big step for everybody. I think everybody understands that, but talk a little bit about, other than speed of the game, because you hear that from everybody. What other adjustments are there from the college to pro game?
I would say that the biggest thing is collectively receivers are more polished at this level. So I played against a lot of good receivers throughout my days in college, but they're just more of them at this level in terms of route running ability, hand fighting, catching ability, and then the quarterbacks in general can just make tighter window throws. So your technique needs to be even tighter if you want to lock receivers down. And then I'm playing safety now, but I came in here as a corner. This is so fun fact. I've never played safety a day in my life before the start of this training camp. So I've only been playing safety for about 4 weeks now. But yeah, so I came in as a corner. So that was definitely something that I had to, adjust to, because we press a lot here. So, we're always up in somebody's face. And my college career, most of the time I was playing off. I can press, but, I was playing off man for a lot of college. So that was a little bit of an adjustment coming into the league. But I would say that things have definitely started to slow down just the more reps I get. So yeah, I'm sure that with even more reps that things will get even better.
That's all very cool stuff, and just the kind of technical information that's fun. What about your skill set and what you did at cornerback is portable to safety? What do you take with you that you think might give you an advantage at safety?
So I think that the top two things would be, one, my brain, and then two, my level of physicality. And so because of those two things, I always kind of, like you said, my foresight, I always kind of foresaw myself making a transition to safety. I didn't know when it was going to happen. I didn't expect it to happen this soon, but I knew it was going to happen eventually. But while I was playing corner, I was definitely more physical than people expect corners to be. I remember my career at Vanderbilt last year, I think I had 2 games where I had maybe like 7 and 8 tackles. There was a game at UConn where I had 9 tackles in the game. So I'm definitely not afraid to get my nose in on the ball and just go fly around and make contact. And then my brain, I'm a smart guy. Just to put it simply. So I majored in mechanical engineering while I was at UConn,
wow.
Which was yeah, that's usually people's reaction. It was very difficult. There were a lot of late nights doing homework, studying for tests, but it was definitely worth it. I definitely don't regret doing it. I managed to finish with a 3.3, while playing football at a high level. So that just speaks to how my brain operates. And that definitely translates to the football field. So one of the main things that they liked about me here with the Ravens is how quickly I was able to pick up the playbook. That's actually why I was able to make the transition to safety so soon, because even though I came in here as a corner, I was making sure that I was studying both positions, both corner and safety at the same time, just because, I knew eventually I would get moved. So one of the things I'm prior to coming into the league, talking to people who have played DB in the league before at various points, one of the most common things I hear from all of them is, something happened at practice and they got thrown in at safety for whatever reason. So knowing that, I was kind of
Film Study is brought to you by Factor. With the busy fall season just around the corner, you might be looking for wholesome, convenient meals for those jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, can help you fuel up fast with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes, so all you have to do is heat and enjoy. Then get back to crushing your goals. Refresh your healthy habits without missing a beat. And with Factor, you can rest assured you're making a sustainable choice. We offset 100% of our delivery emissions, source 100% renewable electricity for our production sites and offices, and feature sustainably sourced seafood in all of our meals. This August, get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Simply choose your meals and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed meals delivered to your door and ready in just 2 minutes. No prep, no mess. Head to factormeals.com/Ravens50 and use code Ravens50 to get that 50% off. That's code Ravens50 at factormeals.com/Ravens50 to get 50% off.
Expecting that to happen to me eventually, so I made sure that I was prepared for that. We would be in the film room. They would put clips up on the board, and I would be like one of the people consistently making all the the calls and checks. And the coaches definitely took notice of that. So they figured that, hey, we could probably put this guy at safety and he would be able to communicate very well. So yeah, I'd say that speaks a lot about how my brain operates.
That's just fantastic stuff. Great to hear. Did you finish your mechanical engineering degree during your time there, or do you still have some classes to go back for? Maybe the year off did it?
I finished it.
Fantastic. Congratulations, man. That's great. There are not too many engineering degrees walking around in the NFL.
Yeah, it's definitely uncommon, but it's possible. So if anybody listening to this, if you are having doubts about playing football and doing something like engineering, just know that it's possible. It can be done.
All right, outstanding. Let's talk about. I guess we've talked about some other things that you bring to the game in terms of safety technique and whatnot. Are you still looking at possibilities of moving to other positions? Like, for instance, they had you playing a lot of single high in this last game, so it looked like you probably were playing more free safety than anything in this game, although Houston Carson was back there as well. Or the other one I'd bring up, because it's so natural and so historic with the Ravens, is have you looked at the possibility of jumping in as a dime back, in particular if the Ravens get off a committed nickel scheme?
I'm pretty much open to wherever they want to use me. That's the mentality I came into this whole thing with. I came in as a corner, and here I am now playing safety and trying to do my thing there. So honestly, wherever they want to put me, that's what I'm going to learn how to do.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the workday a little bit, because I don't think people understand just how rigorous an NFL camp is. Not only, they see the 2 hours out on the field, but they don't see all the other work. Can you kind of take us through your typical workday?
Yeah, there's a lot of other stuff that goes into it. So first thing in the morning, we usually have a lift for about an hour. Then after that, so that'll start at 7:30. Then after that, we'll do our walkthrough for about an hour. Then we'll have meetings from 10 to 12. Then an hour break for lunch, and then in that hour break, people eat, do whatever kind of pre-practice prep they need to do. Then we're out on the field for a 1:20 start for practice. And then on the schedule, it's about 2.5 hours, but things go really smoothly at practice, so usually it's a little bit quicker than that. And then after practice is over, we'll have meetings for the rest of the night. We'll be out by 6:30. So it's about an 12-hour day, depending on when you end up leaving the facility. Which seems kind of long, but it's funny. It's actually better than college. Because college, we get out even later. I think I probably wouldn't get back to my apartment until maybe 9:30 at night. So I'm definitely enjoying the shorter days. They take care of you a lot at this level.
So I know when I hear about bodybuilders needing to lift, a ton of time and then sleep for 12 hours often, what kind of sleep regimen do they put you guys on? Or they ask you?
They don't necessarily put us on a regimen. They trust everybody to be adults and get the right kind of sleep. But so our nutritionists and our strength staff they always advise us how much sleep you should be getting, 8 to 9 hours a night if possible. Turn off the phones, a certain amount of time before bed. Don't be waking up in the middle of the night to go on your phone, play video games or whatever. Nutrition also goes into that. Into having quality sleep, and then keeping the room at a certain temperature. So they definitely give us a lot of advice and stuff on how to get good quality sleep, but they're definitely not hanging over everybody's shoulders. Everybody pretty much knows what they should be doing at this point, to be able to come in and each day and attack the day.
All right, outstanding stuff here, Jeremy. This is just terrific. Do you want to talk about this last game against the Commanders a little bit in terms of some of the things that went right? In particular?
Yeah, so it was definitely a very physical game. And the whole thing was fun. I mean, obviously it stung to lose like that at the end. But overall, I did have a good time, and it was a very physical game. I think I finished with 8 tackles, a pass defense. I had a big QB hit at the end, a split second earlier, and I would have gotten that sack, and then maybe the outcome would have been different. But it was definitely fun to get out there and fly around in that environment in front of all those people. There is a play that I wish I could have back. So I forget who it was that I was guarding. I think it might have been Hodges, but he was split out wide, and he goes to run a curl. They false started, so they stopped the play. The offense lines back up, and he goes back into that same split.
Yep.
So in my head, I'm thinking he's going to do it again. So I'm going to be patient. I'm going to drive it and go pick off the ball. So ball snap, he starts just running straight down the field. I see his hips start to raise up. And for whatever reason, I didn't break as soon as I needed to. I ended up driving. It was a catch tackle. He got the ball for maybe 5 yards. But if I just, that's one of those plays where I saw it coming from a mile away. If I just jumped it, I probably could have picked that off. And that was, the end zone was right in front of me. It was maybe 15, 20 yards away. That I would have taken that to the house. Different ball game. So that's something I definitely wish I could have that back. But you live and you learn. So I'll definitely take that into this next game against the Bucs.
Just hearing your descriptions of how you're playing coverage and how you're visualizing the play in front of you, it seems like playing on the back end of zone, playing single high, really fits who you are as a coverage player, because that patient spider approach where you have a chance to undercut a route, you have a chance to lurk on the back end of a what I call a loose bracket to play for an overthrow. This seems to match exactly up with how you think about football.
Mm-hmm. I think safety in general just feels like a more natural position for me because, I get to roam around in space and just kind of play off of the quarterback a lot, which I've definitely enjoyed. And then I also, because I have a pretty good nose for the ball, I have better vision on, when it's a run. I can just trigger downhill, fly in there, and go try to make a play. So I've definitely been enjoying the position change a lot.
So we're at this point now, and we've got a key day coming up. So one more preseason game. I expect you would get quite a number of snaps in that. Would you agree?
It seems like that's going to be the case.
Mm-hmm. the number of players that they have still, taking any snaps at all is greatly reduced, and it's a short turnaround on the week. Talk about a little bit about that, coming back to play football after only 4 days off.
Honestly, I really don't know how much to say about that, because this is the first time that's ever happened. I've never had a short week before. So I'm definitely excited for it. I know they're going to take good care of us this week at practice, so I should go into that game feeling pretty fresh. I don't feel too bad right now, just typical post-game soreness, but I expect to be good by the end of the week. I'm not sure when we'll fly down there, because we're playing down in Tampa. I don't know how long before the game they usually leave, but excited for the trip. It's going to be the biggest game of my life to date. This is my third major interview, so just got to go out there, fly around and do what I did the past 2 games.
Yeah, just to make sure, he's not talking about this being one of the 3 interviews either. He's talking about the 3 preseason games, fairly obviously.
Yes.
but it is a big job interview. Now, cutdown day comes only a week from today, so you're a very grounded person, it seems, in terms of what it is, and I hear that from your draft description. So, obviously everybody fears the Turk on cutdown day. But if it happens, I would think you're a very high probability, I would say, to make a practice squad somewhere, probably here in Baltimore. How are you going to approach, just you're going through the thoughts in terms of cut down day, and maybe managing your own emotions?
So yeah, like I said earlier, I'm not a delusional guy by any means. So even though I feel like I've been having a pretty solid camp. I've done a lot of good things and shown a lot of good potential. At the end of the day, we do still have a lot of really, really good depth at the safety position. So most likely it'll be a practice squad type deal. But honestly, that is a huge win for me. If nothing else, because it'll just give me a full year to just develop at the safety position, because safety is still new to me. Even it does feel like a more natural position for me than corner, but at the end of the day, because I don't have years of experience playing it, I still need to develop that savvy that you need as a safety to be able to truly impact the game. So I think that a year to develop would definitely be really good for me. But that being said, if I do end up on the roster somehow, getting elevated for a game on any given week, that would be awesome too. I would love to get out there and fly around in a regular season game. That would be really fun. But that being said, if it ends up being the case that, they call me into the office, say they're going to waive me, but bring me back to the practice squad, I'll take that as a win, 100%.
All right. Outstanding. And obviously the Ravens aren't the only team out there. And with what you've put on tape in these first couple of games, I would think there's going to be other teams that would be interested. Anyway, really looking forward to seeing you play in Baltimore and continuing a long tradition of quality safety play here. Anything else you want to talk? Oh, I know what I want to ask you about. I'm planning for life after football. How about that? So whether it comes, in a year or 2, or whether it's 8 years down the road, there will be a life after football at some point. Are you thinking of being an engineer?
So the tough part with that is that throughout college, I was never able to do any kind of internship. I've done a couple of job shadows, but I've never done a hands-on internship, because I was just always on campus for football, so there was never any time. And then the farther you get out of college, the harder it is to just go right into the field. So I think I would likely need to either go back to school or try to, find a connection where I could get some kind of job and just work my way up in the engineering world. But I don't see that as something that would happen right away. But if I do get an engineering job, I know for sure I would want to do something hands-on. I've never really been super into an office kind of job or a desk kind of job. I would want to be out in the field doing something, building something. And then aside from that, a little kind of side hustle thing that I think I might want to do is something cooking related. So another fun fact, I'm huge into cooking and baking. That all started back during in 2020 during the pandemic. I spent so much time at home because after the colleges sent students home for the rest of the year, in like March. That was the longest period of time that I had been home since coming into college. So I was just sitting in my house, just bored out of my mind. I had no idea what to do with myself. So I eventually just started to just learn how to cook. I learned a bunch of different recipes. At this point, I have a bunch of things under my belt that I know how to make. Whenever I go back home, so one of the things that I love to make is cinnamon rolls. I'll make them from scratch, like the dough and everything. And I started like kind of a mini business. So whenever I go home, I'll take orders from a bunch of different people in the area. I'll give them like, a half dozen or a full dozen, however much they want. I think the largest number that I made in one sitting was maybe 108 rolls. It took me all day to make and deliver. But that's something like, I started doing on the side while I was home. And then during, fall 2020 through the spring of 2022, while I was at UConn, I would sell seafood mac and cheese. I would make that in Connecticut, make it for my teammates. I would, take orders from them. Then I would make mac and cheese and put like, salmon, shrimp, crab, and a little bit of lobster in it. Everybody loves that. So that is something that I've kind of fallen in love with over the years. So I think that one day I might try to open up some kind of a food business, maybe a food truck or something. It's still a work in progress. I have a lot of time to think about that, but that's also something I might see myself doing.
Fascinating. That is a great idea. As a guy who was an actuary and wanted to really do football, I completely understand the desire to have a change in career, or at least a second career that really matches up with your love and not necessarily exactly what your education was.
Mm-hmm. And then I could use football to market that. I think that would go really well. So
yeah, I bet. Jeremy, absolute pleasure to have you on. I really appreciate you taking the time today and working through some of these technical difficulties we have had in terms of getting you a connection. Do you want to give out any information on where people can ask you a question online about football? We don't have to.
Trying to think. I mean, I guess people could shoot me a message on Instagram or Twitter.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure all my stuff is public. Yeah, so people should be able to message me on there if they have a question.
All right, and you are at J_Luke21. That's J_LUC21. If you want to get a question to Jeremy. Much appreciate you coming on, Jeremy. And other folks out there, if you'd like to do a film study short, hit me up. DMs are always open on Twitter, and I'll get back to you very quickly. Jeremy, thanks again for coming on.
Thanks again for having me.
And we'll talk to you next time on Film Study.